Hello and happy Krampusnacht to you. Today is the beginning of Krampus season. 2 weeks of scary, spooky times in between Christmas and Halloween, where men go across the streets of Europe and now even into America dressed as Krampus to scare away the children right before the winter season. So in this video, we're going to be discussing the history, mythology, and folklore behind Krampus, as well as talking about the aspects. And so this is definitely just like informing you in case you don't know, but also to kind of talk about and celebrate the pagan origins of Krampus. So I hope you enjoy this video as I film here on a sleigh, literally talking about the winter devil. So who is Krampus exactly if you don't know who Krampus is? So Krampus is basically the villain version of Santa Claus, the dark Santa Claus, the evil version of him. And the history goes back for a few hundred years, if not thousands of years. And it's pretty commonly accepted that the origin of Krampus is a pagan tradition that has survived and gone through multiple evolutions and Christianizations and cultural changes throughout history. Now, the first recorded example of Krampus written down in history wasn't until the 16th century, but we do know past them because it was someone actually observing a Krampus tradition saying, oh, they were doing this. And so we definitely know it happened before then. And then in the recent years, it's become more widespread. But the history is a little bit more complicated than that. Now, the history is actually quite complicated, but for most of its history, the Krampus legends were around the Alp region. However, they go as far north as the Netherlands and go into different variations and now have spread across the world. But for the most part, Bavaria seems to be the heart of Krampus veneration or celebration or festivals. And so I have to, of course, give them credit because I did spend a few months of my life in Bavaria. So it definitely seems like Krampus legends are still pretty big there. Now, the actual history between the 1600s or the 1500s when we first start hearing about Krampus to around the 1800s is pretty inactive. I couldn't really seem to find anything. But during the 1800s, it seems that Krampus legends and Krampusnacht and celebrating Krampus again seemed to pick up in popularity as different types of Krampus cotton started to pop up across the Germanic region. And they're actually kind of fun and very vintage. And I think this would be something that people would definitely collect or spread around today, is sending people Krampus cards. Now, interestingly enough, into the 1900s, around the 1950s actually, Krampus was actually outlawed across most of Europe, at least as a public celebration. And so it's really not been until the last 20 to 30 years that Krampus has become more popular once again in modern media and in popular culture, at least in popular culture within the Germanic region and now around the world. There's Krampus celebrations in LA and I think in San Francisco as well, if I'm not mistaken. So there's Krampus celebration. I mean, Krampus in general has just become more popular. I mean, the movie that came out just a few years ago did pretty well and was pretty well received. And I hear a lot of people talking about it, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed the movie when it came out, and it definitely fit the Krampus legend as it was told in the past, or at least what we know. Now, let's actually talk about the aspects of Krampus here. And so typically he's depicted as a brown or dark furred creature, half man, half goat, with horns, and then a very long, like coiled up tongue, which we actually see in the movie quite creepily. And so these are the aspects that we see pretty often. Past this, things typically change depending on region and tradition or person interpreting Krampus. And so there's a lot of variations of what Krampus looks like. A lot of the times in the very Christianized tradition, he has chains around him because these are the chains that God put on the devil. And so there's certainly a Christian component to the surviving Krampus legend. However, a lot of people seem to accept the fact that Krampus is more or less a pagan tradition from the past that has survived, and a lot of people just don't seem to care. Now, obviously in the 1950s they cared as they tried to outlaw it, but obviously that has gone away in the last few years. Other aspects of Krampus is he actually has a bundle of sticks or a twig or a singular branch that he has to swat the bad children. And this is the key component of a Krampusnacht. Krampus celebration is people dressed up as Krampus swatting people with these little sticks who have been bad. And so he's definitely the other side of Santa Claus. Santa Claus is giving, Saint Nick is giving gifts as well. Krampus is sitting here beating bad children. And so when you actually see like a Krampusnacht celebration in Europe, they usually have these this little bundle of twigs or a branch that they're going around with, swatting people, and it just looks like a lot of fun. Now, I guess there has been some controversy even in the recent years, as some people have gotten a little too drunk, because another aspect of Krampus is that you give him schnapps as an offering. Now, I looked on several sources, and people kept on calling it an offering. So, of course, as a pagan, I really love that. So if you actually want to participate this as a modern pagan practitioner, offering schnapps to Krampus would be a very good Yuletide tradition, as well as a Krampusnacht tradition that you can start doing today. Now, the actual modern practice of it is typically men dressing up as Krampus, causing a ruckus, and then people giving them schnapps or giving them alcohol, and then them getting drunk. And so it's more or less a drinking holiday that you dress up for, but it looks like a lot of fun. I really want to go to one here in the States, maybe start one here. I don't know how well it's going to go over, considering that Krampus is definitely the devil figure. But I don't know. It looks like a lot of fun from everything I can tell. It looks really spooky. And I think one of the reasons it's picked up in modern popularity is because it's that combination of the winter season, which the aesthetic of winter, I think everyone really loves it. I really love the aesthetic of winter. And so combining that with the spookiness of Halloween, just for one last blowout of spooky times before the winter charm sets in. So the last thing I really want to add here is why I say Krampusnacht, what that actually means. So December 5th, from what I can tell from my research, is the actual start day of Krampusnacht, and that this is the actual time that Krampusnacht celebrations take place. However, it seems like that a lot of times they take place anywhere between a 2-week window from the 5th, depending on times and dates of the city. I know Munich's is in a week or two, I believe, and so it's definitely going to vary, and it's not going to be something I think has to be set in stone, but December 5th is the start or the first Krampusnacht. And then it runs for about 2 weeks before Christmas, and it just seems like a really good time. So yeah, I think that is it. I think I've covered just about everything that I could find on Krampus, really quickly. Maybe I should say that in the movie, he's got a lot of minions that help him. I couldn't really seem to find anything like that. I did really like the movie that I believe it came out in 2015. I really enjoyed that movie. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's spooky, but it's got the winter thing, and it's kind of dark, and it's kind of funny. And I think that really encapsulates what Krampus is and what a Krampusnacht celebration could be. And with that, I think that's about all I have. And so please let me know down below what you think of Krampus and Krampusnacht and Krampuskarten. And if you would like to go to a Krampusnacht celebration, or if you think that we should put one on with the Fellowship of Northern Traditions, I know we're already talking about it, because I think it would be a lot of fun. Now, switching over back to the Yule side of things, if you're interested in reading a Yule story that's based around Norse mythology, I have a book that just released recently, and it's called A Yule Story. So if you're interested in checking out my version of Yule in this modern interpretation of it, with a figure that is like Odin named Yulnir, and even Frigg, and a magic reindeer that talks to Eric, the main character, who's trying to bring back the magic of the season, it's all right here in this book I wrote. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you pick it up. So far, the reviews have been great. Everyone seems to enjoy this warm-hearted tale about magic during the winter season. There's no Krampus in it, but maybe next year I'll write a Krampus story, because I think that'll be a lot of fun. With that, thank you so very much for joining me for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this information. Get out there, cause some mischief, drink some schnapps, and let's have a good Krampusnacht before you. And until the home, let's go.